So good evening. We're a couple minutes late, but I'm going to open the tonight's session of the Zoning Board of Appeals. We start out with the roll call of the members present for purposes of the Zoom purposes of recording in the minutes. So Ms. Akers-Moore.
Present.
Mr. Swaim.
Present.
Mr. Faia.
Present.
And Theo is not joining us tonight. Is that true, or is we still waiting for him?
He's here.
Huh?
Yeah, he's
Oh, he's
here.
here? No, I just don't have the right view. There you go, Mr. Kindermans.
I'm here.
Thank you, Mr. Smith here. All right, thanks very much. We are going to begin. I don't know why I have this view going, but anyway, we'll figure it out. We're going to begin with the first hearing is David Matheson for a special permit under sections 4.2.2.1, 11.6 for a two-family dwelling at 53 Hubbard Street. Mr. Matheson has requested a continuance of this hearing without a discussion to our January 13th meeting. Do I have a?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Kindermans. Okay. Oh, I figured out. Now I can see everybody. Great. All
Oh, wait,
right.
we gotta move it to a date certain, right?
Yep.
Sorry.
Yes. Well, we
January
moved it to
13th.
January 13th. What's the time?
7:05.
7:05. Okay, I shan't be here. Okay, so Mr. Kindermans,
Aye.
Ms. Akers-Moore,
Aye.
Mr. Smith, aye. Thank you very much. Okay, I think we've caught up. It's now 7:05 by my 7:06. So the next matter is Tamar Bishlitsky for a special permit under sections 5.3.6.2 and 11.6 of the bylaw for a special home occupation to operate a doctor's office at 350 Bedford Street. Is the applicant
Hi.
on?
I'm-
Ms. Okay, great.
So shall I let you know about what I'm asking for?
That would be great. Just
Okay.
you want to make a brief statement, that would be fine.
Yes, so I live at 350 Bedford Street, and I currently am a psychotherapist. I work alone for myself, and currently I see patients in doing telehealth in my office on the second floor of the barn. And I'd like the option, once the pandemic would allow that, to be seeing patients in person. In particular, I would like the option of growing my practice locally. I work with patients who are high functioning, suffering from anxiety, depression, life transitions, trauma, but high functioning. And usually I see one patient at a time. Sometimes I see couples, but that would be like one couple in my caseload. And I work doing week hours from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Those are my hours. And I don't foresee that many people would show up to in-person sessions. Most of my caseload will continue to be telehealth, but I'd like to offer that option. I think I covered the main points, but I'm open to questions.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Are there questions from, so just to be clear, this is, you have never had a permit previously. This is your first time.
No,
right?
I
Yeah.
recently moved to Concord, and so I've been here just a few months.
Oh, welcome.
Thank
Welcome.
you.
I hope you enjoy it here.
Thank you.
So any questions from the board before we open it up for public comment?
Does she live in the house? that's on the premises?
Yes. So I live in the house and I work on the second floor of the barn.
Thank you.
I have one question about the parking spaces. It
Yes.
seems that, you know, if you're expecting only one patient at a time, 3 spaces is probably enough. I'm not sure if what the reason is for increasing the size of the driveway to add a 4th space. Can you talk about that?
I think what I understood was that that's a requirement from the building commissioner.
Ray,
Oh,
is
that's-
that what you think, or?
No, I just told the applicant that she needs to show the parking spaces in the driveway. To your point, she's got 3, and she could actually park a car behind one of the cars instead of adding to the driveway. But if she's only going to see one person at a time, and I don't know if she has 1 or 2 vehicles. I mean, so for the single family resident, she would need 2 for her own purpose and 1 for the client. I mean, I think
Right.
3 would suffice.
Okay, so if you don't think the 4th one is a requirement, would you just keep the 3? Ms. Bishop?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I think that works, and I guess I'd rather see less paving, so.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Sure.
Great, thank you.
Jim, I'd like to ask, I guess, Ray, would this be an application under 5361 or 5362? 5362, Tom. Thank you. 5361 doesn't require a Board of Appeals special permit because they're only allowed 2 trips in and out per day.
Okay.
So the applicant's asking for probably 5 clients, but that would be 10 trips a day. Okay, thank you.
By the way, I appreciate opening my brand new zoning
Yeah.
bylaw and being able to find stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not wondering if I've got the right section of the right thing. Other questions?
No, parking was my question as well. So thank
Okay,
you.
great. Thanks. Yeah. All right. So we'll open it up for any public comment. If you could use the raise hands button. I see somebody, Ms. or Mr. Larpel. Looks like I don't see a picture. So
Hi, I'm Larry Palmer, and it's my wife Karen.
Hi, how you doing?
We live up the street.
well, ma'am, so sorry, sir. Mr. Palmer, we need actually the address for the record.
Sorry,
Just
324 Bedford Street.
Great, thank you.
We're concerned about the effect on the neighborhood. This is a residential neighborhood, and we're concerned about bringing a business into the neighborhood. We're afraid it will change the character of the neighborhood. I mean, clearly, I understand, that it's performing a valuable service, but there are business districts, and we bought a house in a residential district because we wanted a residential neighborhood. We also have a certain amount of concern about the type of clients who might come. And today, it might be single people with anxiety, but there's no restriction to say that these might not become drug addicts, sexual predators, people with violent impulses or poor impulse control. There's children that live in the neighborhood. We're a little concerned about what this could bring in. And I assume with patient privacy laws, there would be no way that we could ever know any of this information. So it seems both changing the character of the neighborhood and potentially dangerous.
We're also worried about property value. We don't want our property value to go down because all of a sudden it's a business district. What's to stop other people from wanting to do other things in their homes? So it's a big concern. I know it seems like probably a small concern where you're doing telehealth, but there's going to be no monitoring of how many clients a day are coming and what type of problems they have and so on.
May I answer? Is
And
that
you're just,
okay?
no, I'm just going to let you just wait for 1 second. So, and I will in 1 second. So one of the things, Ray, I'm going to eventually ask you is to give a little bit of a discussion about the number of home occupancy permits there are in town and where they are and where the businesses are. I think based on my time in the board, we will find that these kinds of businesses without signs, people seeing people in their home are all through the home, all through the town. But in any event, okay, Ms. Vishlitzky, I'll let you respond.
So, first of all, I really appreciate your concerns. And I guess I want to say, one, there would never be a sign. So there's no business atmosphere. You know, I'll see one patient at a time. But I also want to say to you that I am very careful living on my own here. I would definitely screen patients very carefully before I invite them to be seen here. And there's certain diagnoses and concerns that I would not feel safe to bring here because I live here. So I'm very careful as it is. I've been in this doing private practice for many years, and I'm very discerning about the patients I can treat and feel safe about. And I don't treat the kinds of patients that you've described because I wouldn't feel safe to invite them to my, I mean, this is my home, you know, it's the barn, but really it's my home. So I'm really, I understand your concern, but please know that I'm also concerned for myself. And so I'm very discerning about it.
Okay. Well, while you say there wouldn't be a sign, I mean, the bylaw does allow.
Sorry,
I'm sorry.
excuse me. There's like an order to this.
Sorry about
I
that.
gotta recognize you. So, and I actually want to get, would hold that because we have another person who also came in. So I want to make that and then we'll come back. So we just kind of keep this rolling. Mr. Perry, you seem to have your hand up.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Mr. Chair, Edward Perry, 362 Bedford Street. I'm here to support Dr. Vishlitzky's application. She is moving into the old D barn and D house, which was the original building in our neighborhood. And if there was a business restriction, D's wouldn't have been able to be there because the farm was the business. So I think the house has been, and the barn has been used as a business for many years, not previously to Dr. Vishlitzky, but before that. So my awareness of the needs of our community comes from the Concord Carlisle Community Chest, which did a needs assessment over the last year and found that the mental health of Concord and Carlisle had been adversely affected by the pandemic, as I'm sure many communities around Boston have been. So I think we need more therapists in Concord, and I am well aware of, as the chair mentioned, sole practitioners operating out of their residences, doing telehealth and seeing patients in their on their property. And I am supportive of this application. We actually live right next door. We work as a neighborhood. We recently put in a bog bridge so that the neighbors, the kids, the adults could get to the bridge, to the ridge trail. And so I think we work as a neighborhood and we'll get to know each other better that way. I would like to just note that I'm hoping that, and I've spoken with Dr. Vishlitzky about this, that the barn won't develop into a second community agencies corporation building where there would be 5 or 6 different doctors. And she's assured me that she's a sole practitioner and that's the way she plans to keep it that way. If the conditions on the permit, special permit could mention that it would be just one doctor operating there, I would appreciate that. But you all know that I've been active in town. I respect all the commissioners here, and I very much appreciate the opportunity to address the application. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. Now I'm going to go, now I haven't seen any other hands up, so we'll go back to you, Mr. Palmer. Great.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I guess our real concern is what this might turn into, how big the business could get once the pandemic ends, as Mr. Perry just mentioned. And also, I know the bylaw does allow for a sign on the property, although Ms. Wisniewski has said that she, would not have a sign. Could we stipulate that there not be a commercial sign and that there be only a single employee, or not we, but you? Or once it's passed, is it just open to anything that's allowable and the business could grow?
Sure. So let me answer that question, and then I'm going to ask Ray to address the issue. Hopefully, if he's still there. Hey, there you are. I can't find you on my screen. So, so these permits, the typical thing of a permit, and as I mentioned, we have a lot of them in town, but it's the typical sort of life of these is that they are issued with restrictions that usually the applicant has, well, always, the applicant almost always has agreed to. And in this particular case, what we're giving a permit for is what is described here. So it's a single doctor with the hours that she's described, no signs, et cetera, et cetera. That's all sitting in, that will all be in the permit. That's sort of point one. Point two is that on a first permit like this, these are very traditionally issued for 1 year only. And then the applicant has to come back. And the first question we would do in that situation, in that little session where the board is asking the questions, is somebody would turn to Ray and say, have there been any complaints, any concerns, any neighborhood issues with respect to the permit? That's sort of the kind of the underlying starting point, so that you have an opportunity. And then maybe a person will end up with a second 1 year permit. Maybe it'll be a 2 year permit. I think that I'm aware of a person who runs his business out of his home in West Concord, who was to the board after 20 successful years of operating his business out of his home, and the neighbors all happy and everything else. And I think we actually gave him a 10-year permit just because it had been proven. But in all cases here, first, everything is restricted to into the situation. To Mr. Perry's point, people, we will hold people to what they say they're going to do. And then secondly, we get another look at it in another year. And that's an opportunity for everyone to come back and see why, if it's working, if it's not working, what's going forward. So maybe, hopefully that's helpful. I'm trying to look for hands up here. I'm not seeing any. Oh, yours is still up, Mr. Palmer. So would you like to?
Yeah, just one last comment. And so as I understand what you said is that there would be stipulations of no employees and no sign. And if that's correct, then I guess we'd like to welcome Ms. Wisniewski to the neighborhood and wish her good luck.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay, anything else? All right, so I'm going to close the public comment. Further discussion from the board. I think that I certainly am hearing from Ms. Wisniewski and everybody else here that this is no sign, one employee, hours as indicated in her application, one or not more than 2 patients at a time.
Jim,
And-
did Ray have an answer to your question about?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'm just
I don't
curious.
know. Maybe he did. Ray,
What was the question again, Jim? How many of
the
these have we
question
done?
was sort of the prevalence of special occupancy permits within the town.
So I mean, this bylaw has been in the zoning for, I mean, I see special permits for a doctor's office going back to probably the 40s and 50s. So it's been a bylaw in town forever. But recently I just issued 2 of the home occupations under 5361. And both of them were for psychiatrists. And they indicate it's just a home occupation application they fill out. They don't have to come to the board. And the difference is they're only seeing 2 patients a day, which is 4 trips. So, I mean, like I said, just recently I've done 2 for the same type of business. So if the applicant decides to only see 2 patients instead of 5, she wouldn't even be in front of the board right now. And I mean, we get those type of applications on a fairly regular basis, not so much for doctor's office, sometimes just a home office, it could be a writer or, all different types of careers.
I would guess that since I've been on the zoning board, I've probably reviewed the ones that get up to our level. I've probably reviewed 40. I mean, easily. So, I mean, it is a pretty prevalent thing in town, and virtually nobody has a sign, and they're small situations. Thank you, Ray. Thanks, Tom. Anybody else?
Will the number of vehicle trips, will there be like a cap on the number of vehicle trips in the conditions? Is that?
I think she said 5, right? Is it 5? Is that up to 5, Ray? Is that what you said?
Yes, but she said 5 patients, so that would be 10 trips.
And 10
per day.
trips, yeah.
But she did say no employees, Jim. I think you commented there would be 1. It would just be herself, no
Oh,
employees.
one, just herself. Yes. No employee,
Yeah.
just the doctor. Okay, somebody want to take on that?
Sure, I'll make a motion to issue a special permit under sections 5362 and 11.6 of the zoning bylaw for a special home occupation to operate the doctor's office at 350 Bedford Street, parcel 0901, with the conditions that there will be no sign outside, that there is no employee, and that the hours are 8 a.m., 7 p.m., I believe was requested. And also, I believe we want to say that that additional parking space that was in the application is not needed, right?
And also for
And-
this is 1 year.
And for the duration of 1 year, yeah.
Great.
Great.
Do I have a
Second.
second? Okay, thank you. Ms. Akers-Moore,
Aye.
Mr. Kindermans,
Aye.
Mr. Smith, aye. I'm a great believer that this is going to work out great. So I hope everybody has a very safe and sound business and neighborhood together. So thank you very much. I certainly could use a little mental health break every once in a while. All
Oh,
right.
we have just a doctor for you.
Exactly right. Well, I'm going to try out the being in Hawaii for 2 weeks in January method. We'll see if that works. So the next item is Peter Martin for a special permit under section 4.2.2.2 and 11.6 of the bylaw for a 931 square foot additional dwelling unit at 1341 Lowell Road. And is there somebody, is the applicant here? Oh, Mr. Martin, you're here. Are you gonna, oh, you're on mute, sir. Ah, there you go.
Hello?
We have you now.
Okay, hi, I'm Peter Martin. I live at 39 Battle Flag Road in Bedford. And I am here as the applicant on behalf of my sister Anne, who I see is joining us from the UK.
Hi, everyone.
For a special permit under bylaw section 4.2.2.2. And we are looking to reconstruct the existing structure at 1341 Lowell Road. Because it is in excess of 750 square feet, we're here before you tonight. And I think you have all the pertinent information. I can go into more depth about the building and the characteristics. But I think we meet all the criteria under the bylaw. So we're hoping for a special permit approval. But do you want me to go into more detail about the project, or?
No, I don't think that's necessary at the moment.
Okay.
We have your materials. I think we've read them. So if there's Ms. Marden, it's very late there in England.
Yes, I'm usually asleep at this time.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us. So I'll open this to the board and see if they have any questions. And then we'll proceed to the public comment. Nothing. Ray, anything from your standpoint?
No, the only reason he's here is because the ADU is larger than 750 square feet. He meets all the other criteria, lot size, setbacks. He's got Board of Health approval already.
Great, thank you. So
I
at this
saw the
point,
point about.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I mean, there was the point about the owner occupancy. You know, I was comfortable, I guess, that the parents will be there, and it sounds like Anne's going to be moving there as well. But you know, I appreciate the well put together application and even calling out that specific detail from the applicant.
Right. And Anne, you are going to be moving there, is that correct?
I will be. I'll be going on my U.S. payroll next year, partly because if I don't, I won't get Social Security. I need to pay into Social Security, and I'll be. But the thing is, I already have an established presence. I may not be full-time right now. I'm not a full-time resident. I'm a part-time resident. Next year, I'll be meeting criteria of full-time resident. Just to be clear, some of that will be based on being there, whatever it is, more than 180 days. But also, I'm changing my tax status, so I'll be a tax. I'll have a tax address in both the UK and the US next year, and eventually, I'll only have a tax address in the long term in the US. And it's but it is also, I believe it's clearly a family property, and myself will be living there. My two sisters, as they retire, may be living there. It's definitely we're keeping it in the family.
Great, thank you, ma'am. Tax status in 2 countries, that's tough.
So that's not fun, but that's what I'm doing.
All right. Do we have any comment? I'm going to open this up to public comment. Does anybody care to speak on this particular thing? I'm not seeing any hands raised at the moment, and most of the names I see are for the next matter. Ned, Mr. Perry, I see your hand up. Sorry.
Just to give some color to the Martins' property, I guess it was their father, I think.
Oh, babe, Mr. Perry, by the way, as a former moderator, you have to say that whole thing again, right?
I'm sorry. Ned Perry, 362 Bedford Street, absolutely right. I'm sorry. Formerly of 71 Spencer Road, and formerly pass Martin's property every day on their way to school. Their father was developing Lindsay Pond Road and trying to attract buyers, trying to attract sellers. And one of the prospective sellers called up and said, I can come out on July 4th but I'm sure you wouldn't be in Concord on July 4th. And he quickly shot back, where else would I want to be on July 4th? And he sold the property. They're a great family. They've been a great neighbor, great part of the neighborhood for many, many years, and I support their application. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. Okay, anything else? Other questions, anything else? So I'm gonna close the public comment and see if there's any other comments from the board. Thank you for raising the issue about the occupancy, but I think that certainly I agree with Mr. Faya that I'm satisfied with the both the application and the response on that score. And I think the rest of it looks like it's well put together.
And it does look like it will be an improvement to the current state of that part of the structure as well. So I think that's a benefit to be had from this project.
Great. So if somebody's willing to make a motion.
All right, I'll make a motion. Okay, I will move that we grant a special permit under sections 4.2.2.2 and 11.6 of the zoning bylaw for a 931 square foot additional dwelling unit at 1325, 1341 Lowell Road, parcel number 1607-1. I guess we didn't add anything in terms of conditions, so subject to the materials we received.
I second that motion.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Kindermans,
Aye.
Ms. Akers-Moore,
Aye.
Thank you.
Mr. Smith, aye. Thank you all. Have a good rest of your evening, Ms. Martin. What little of it is left. Mr.
Thank you.
Barton,
Good night,
thank you very
everyone.
much.
Thank
Good
you all
night.
for your time tonight.
Great, thank you. Okay, our last hearing for the evening is Mike Bushnell for special permit under section 7.1.3, 7.1.5, and 11.6 of the zoning bylaw to demolish an existing 62 square foot dwelling and construct a 4,944 square foot dwelling that is over 50% larger than the existing gross floor area.
What?
Hello?
Oh,
You don't understand it.
Jim, just for the record, I think I'm not voting on this one because I wasn't here last meeting, although I did listen to the recording, but
Right, and I think, I don't know if you made it to the site
I
visit.
didn't
either,
make it
so
to the
that's-
site visit, so. just
Okay,
you
so I think Mr. Kindermans and Mr. Faya and I were all at the site visit, at least. I don't know if Mr. Swain was there or not, but maybe you were there and even at the site visit I was on, that was one of those days. Anyhow, here we are, we're back again. So I guess we'll start out. So we had a long discussion last week, which was very helpful. Order will be similar. We'll start out with the applicant, board questions, and then turn to other questions from the public. So I don't know, Mr. Bushnell, or if somebody else is going to.
Yeah, I'll start.
Okay.
Yeah, I apologize for missing the first meeting. I had a conflict. So my name is Mike Bushnell. I own 135 Williams Road. I thank you guys for the site visit.
And you're from where are you? I'm sorry, where are you from?
130. I'm the owner of 135 Williams Road.
Oh, okay, but is that your residence?
No, it is not. No.
Okay, so if you could just state your residence, so we can do that for the records. just
Sure.
so-
105 Northwoods Road, Groton, Mass.
Great, thank you. Okay, go ahead.
So thank you for your site visit. I submitted a bunch of new information in this week, and I have Rich Harrington here, my engineer. He'll handle the presentation. And I'm here to answer any questions or whatnot, but Rich will
Okay,
take it from here.
Great, thank you, Mr. Bushnell. Mr. Harrington? And
Yes,
you're
good
gonna-
evening.
Okay,
Rich Harrington from Harrington Associates, 20 Main Street, Acton, Mass. We were on the site walk earlier in the week on Monday. Just to bring the board up to speed, on November 4th, we conducted soil testing with the Board of Health. So we have adequate soils for the septic system. We've updated the site plan earlier today to reflect the proposed driveway location, which was discussed at the site walk. And then we've also adjusted the dwelling footprint to the current site plan, that architectural plans that Elise Stone has on there. In addition, the septic design will have a slightly higher foundation height than Mike Bushnell had on his height chart that he submitted in the boundary, the starting elevation of the base elevation of the grade of the existing home is slightly higher also. Moving forward, we have a house that meets does not exceed the maximum height of 35 feet. We moved the house back an additional 10 feet so that we have a situation where the house is now, the front of the front porch is in line with the front of the existing house. And we are also in the groundwater conservancy district. So in regards to the special permit criteria, we have a cap of 15% impervious area on the property for houses and driveways and pavement. And right now we're approximately about just under 12% for that with the proposed design. So we do not exceed anything and we fully comply with the overlying groundwater conservancy district. When we slide the driveway over, the board had a possible request for some stormwater controls to recharge some additional area, and that's possible once we remove the driveway over. So we could drop that area down and provide some dry walls for the roof and for the driveway. That can be handled as well. So when you look at the property, last meeting they talked about not complying with the frontage. We're at 150, not complying with the area, and how we are still 50% below the FAR. What I can say is when looking at the lot width of what's required in this district, the lot width is 160, which is 80% of the frontage. We're about 110 feet at the lot width where the house is. When you deduct the setbacks of 30 feet, which is 15 on each side, you're about 80 feet, and the proposed house is 78 feet wide. So we meet the criteria of what you're looking at with the setbacks of what it is. So the new house design slid back is in keeping with the street front that is there today. And we would be meeting the requirements for not exceeding, we were allowed 4.3 bedrooms on the property in the groundwater conservancy, and we're only proposing 4 bedrooms. And so we're in full compliance with everything except for the lot area and the lot frontage, which that was changed by zoning after this was built. So it's something where it was more of a protective area decision for the entire town. However, as you know, this property can handle everything related to it as far as a single family house in regards to utilities, parking. The driveway has 2 parking spaces in the garage and a turnaround. So as far as protecting the interest of the character and neighborhood, the safety of the traffic, and the protection of the environment, the proposed plan provides all that. So I'll look forward to hearing anything additional from the board. This is the proposed site plan that was submitted today. And right behind, so beginning of Williams Road on the left-hand side, the existing driveway is higher up in its faded color. And then we're sliding the driveway over to match the new garage. We centered the house on the lot, so you have 29 feet on the setback on the bottom right and 28 feet on the top side. There's vegetation where that 28 foot is along the abutting property of number 115, and that abutter has a letter supporting this in favor of this. And on the right side at the 29-foot setback, we also have a new letter from the abutter on 155 in favor of this project as well. In the back of the house, we have the label proposed house. The base elevation is the 145.85 label that we added. When you add 35 feet, the maximum height is the 180.85. So we believe we're going to be about 34 feet in height, so we meet that requirement. And with the location of the house slid back, the driveway moved over, and meeting all the other criteria of the overlay district in town water, public, private sewer. And we feel like this is an approvable project for this special permit process.
Thank you, Mr. Harrington. Any questions at this point from the board? Although we had, anyway, any questions at this point from the board?
Quick question. So you raised the first floor elevation, right? And,
Yes.
How much higher is it than the existing house, the first floor?
I need to check on that. we basically have the minimum steps per the architectural design. So we're only having about 8 inches of exposed concrete in the front of the building on the right-hand side. So we're basically keeping a gravity septic, and I'd have to check that number. But with 146 is about 3 steps in the front. It's probably pretty close, you know, because there's a few steps in the front.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions before we open it? Okay. Thanks. I'm going to open it up to public comment. What am I seeing here? Okay. Mr. Comgene, I think yours is the first hand up, so we'll start with you.
Hi, thank you. Barrett Comgene, 99 Williams Road. I'll keep it brief. I thank the board for doing the site visit, and I appreciate the applicant providing all the additional data and details and some of the modifications. And as I mentioned, there hasn't been a lot of change to the neighborhood, and so this has been sort of a learning process. And my question actually pertains just to how the board views the frontage issue, and not necessarily how it specifically applies to this project, but noting that there are 2 lots next to it towards the Old Road to 9 Acre Corner side, one that is a non-conforming lot that is non-conforming for area only, and the other one, the neighboring lot, is non-conforming for frontage and for area. And so just in terms of understanding what might be coming down the line, I don't know if there's any information the board could just give is just informational about how they perceive that or how they evaluate frontage. I understand what the applicant advisors have said about centering the house and all that, and I appreciate all the effort and discussions that have been happening in that regard, but we're just trying to learn a little bit more about how this is viewed. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mr. Comgene. I'm going to see if there's other comments or questions before we try to take that one on. I'm not been bailed out by anyone. I can see that already. Okay, so I'm going to ask Ray to add. I guess from my own personal position as a member of the board, I think of many of these homes, and this is a perfect example, come to us because it is a non-conforming. There's a non-conformity for some reason. And I think that from my point of view, once there is a non-conformity and it's before us, then it's really tends to be a case-by-case basis. So if the frontage was particularly small or it was a particularly difficult situation, I think that there would be a lot of focus on that. If it seems as it's not an issue for that particular project, we maybe wouldn't. So I would say that it's like you have to look at each of the factors of what brought it to before the board, and then try to understand based on the criteria that we have, which doesn't, the legal criteria doesn't really go to, well, how much was it over the frontage or how much was it over the below the setbacks or those kinds of things, but rather it's more qualitative criteria of change in character, effect on the neighborhood, effect on the town services, et cetera. Mr. Ray, do you have any additional thoughts on that?
I don't have a whole lot to add to that, Jim. I mean, I think the frontage is more concerning, like, to your point, on a small lot that might only have 100 feet of frontage, and then what size house is going on that and how close they are to the setbacks. They could be as close as 15 feet. And still meet zoning setbacks. So, like I said, on a lot like this, I don't think that the frontage of the lot or the setbacks come into play a whole lot. I think it's more the neighborhood, like you were saying.
Thanks, Ray. Other comments or questions? And thank you for your comment, Mr. Comgene. So just in the option, did you have anything you wanted to add, or I'm just making sure with the Zoom situation, I don't always pick up everything I should.
I know that was helpful. Thank you. I appreciate the clarification.
Great. Thank you very much. All right. I don't see anybody else going once, going twice. All right, I'm going to close public comment. Thank you all. Discussion from the board.
Jim, can I make one point here? I want to just clarify for the record. So in the application, yeah, in the application, here the proposed FAR at 4,944 square feet. And last week, Elise Stone cleared that up. There was some square footage in the attic that wasn't picked up the initial review. I believe it was an extra 350 square feet. So the total should be 5,295. I just want that for the record.
Right, great. And so 5,295 is the total for the FAR calculation, and the number that they would have for this lot is what, 10,000 something, or?
Yeah, 11,726.
Okay.
And that attic space isn't finished. It's a scuttle. There's no walk upstairs, but it does have headroom over 6'8" in that small area.
Gotcha.
I just want to clear that up.
Great, thank you for that. Noted.
So I can maybe start. I actually I think moving the building and moving the house back to have its facade on the same location as or the same plane as the original house, I think is it was a very valuable change. Making that change and giving it the house a little bit more space along this road, and in terms of fitting into the neighborhood, I think that was good. And but following up on Ray's comment about the frontage, not looking at it a little bit on case by case basis, where this frontage was it's relatively close. And it's the frontages around this lot are sufficient, or meeting the criteria, and I think it's not the house, although it's almost 5,300 square foot, is darn large, but I don't think we're necessarily square foot police here. I do think the bulk of the house will fit the area. And so I was, I when seeing the area, walking the site, I thought was helpful in that sense, that getting a better idea of how the bulk of this house sits in the neighborhood. So.
Thank you.
Any
other comments?
Yeah, it's if this neighborhood was zoned single A instead of double A, obviously we wouldn't be having this conversation, and I don't think anybody would blink an eye at a house like this being in a single A residential neighborhood. That on the other hand, it is sort of a unique neighborhood in Concord even, and I'm sort of struggling to try and define if there's some neighborhood character that we're getting away from with this. But at the end of the day, just there's such a mix of homes and sizes along the street. It's hard to say this wouldn't fit with sort of a pattern or theme there along that road. And I do feel the tug that it's nice to be able to have these smaller homes in an area of Concord like this. But I think when you come down to the bylaw itself, it's you know, it's hard for me to find a basis for trying to control this house at this size. You know, despite the big jump in square footage from what's on the property right now, which is clearly sort of an undersized house, if I could say that, for this kind of neighborhood.
Thank you. Other comments? So I guess I just add that I thought the site visit was helpful. I agree with my colleagues that the changes that were made to the site plan, I think, were very beneficial, particularly moving the house back to be not only more in line with the other houses in the neighborhood and existing sort of facade, if you will, but also I think that there was, it provided some additional screening from the houses next to it, et cetera. I think that it's always hard in a mixed area like this where there are both a lot of conforming lots and a lot of non-conforming lots, and you know that as a board you can only control the non-conforming lots, because in the conforming lots people can build anything up to the FAR, which as Ray has told us is something like 11,000 square feet. So you know, virtually anything in that situation. And I think that the process here has been helpful in the sense that I do think that there have been some, you know, it has allowed us to suggest and has allowed the applicant and the builder to implement some ideas and thoughts that I think are very helpful, and I think help this particular parcel meet the criteria in 11.6.
Yeah, you know, I'm
Ma'am,
sorry.
Yeah, I just need a name and an address. And
I'm Deborah Yaman, 115 Williams. So I'm the abutter on the left side if you're facing the property. You know,
yes, ma'am.
I mean, I know it's certainly a much larger house than what's there, but I think it's what you can expect when the small houses on Williams are going to turn over. I mean, I think it's not reasonable to think that we can have those houses come down and be built with something of the same magnitude. I think if you would look further down the road at Williams and across the street, I mean, it's what's been done in the town of Concord. And I think it's, you know, while it's a non-conforming lot, if you look at what we've tried to do on my property and how that's expanded, you know, I think it would enhance the neighborhood. And I think the screening between the properties with mine, I would have no problem at all with that. So.
Thank you, Ms. Yaman. Okay, so are we prepared to move forward here? Ravi, are you gonna go for it?
Oops, I was actually just, we haven't talked about any conditions yet, sorry.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry to jump in, but
good idea.
Being the neighbor, and a couple of these are relatively, well, I think they're straightforward. What just was mentioned, there is a substantial planting buffer between the neighbor that just spoke and this house. And I think the applicant already wanted to preserve that buffer, but I do want to make that a condition that that buffer stays in place. And I'd also like to condition, and you know, I know most of you think I'm a broken record here, but Mr. Harrington suggested that some roof runoff could be diverted into some dry wells, and given the fact that we are in the groundwater protection district and that we are very close to the brook here, I think we should do everything we can preserve our aquifer or to add to our aquifer. So, and which indeed would go directly to 11.6 special permit criteria, the impacts of the natural environment. So I would like to add those two, if that would be
That's
that would be
agreeable.
appropriate for.
That's agreeable.
Good, great, good by me too. I think it's, we had that conversation briefly at the site visit, and I think that's important addition.
Yeah, I agree. I was gonna make the same point about the planting buffer, and you know, I think one of the other things we heard from the public comment was, you know, a concern about setting precedent in this neighborhood, and I think we've sort of spoken to that with the fact that there's a mix of conforming and non-conforming lots. But I think we also are going to evaluate each, even on the non-conforming lots, each project that comes before the board will evaluate it on its own merits. And you know, I don't think this is going to set some precedent that you know, we'll have to let any mega mansion that anybody wants to build come into this street. You know, I think there's been thought about the massing here and the design of the house as well from Ms. Stone, and so you know, I think there are other elements that you know, we can approve this without, you know, binding our hands too much with future applications on Williams Road.
Very well said.
So I can go ahead and make a motion. Move that we.
Robbie, excuse me. Before we make
sure.
a motion, I have one question about the tree buffer. So if I'm going to be enforcing this, exactly what kind of a buffer is there now and what's expected? So, you know what I'm saying? I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's a good question.
I can answer that. I've been through the tree process with them, and we have that all delineated and identified in a plan. I forget his name, the new tree guy down there at Natural Resources. He has it all. So I'd be happy to meet with you, Ray, and go over it with you.
Also, is the board happy with enforcing the tree bylaw application, that those trees remain in place? Like I said, I don't know what's there.
Yeah, I think we
it's
discussed it enough at the site visit that you know, the particular trees, and you know, there was one in particular that stood out, were identified as going to be preserved, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
All right, so am I hearing that his tree bylaw application is what we'll be enforcing as far as the tree buffer?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, I think that's right, Mr. Bushnell. Do you agree with that? I think that's what we're talking about here, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, I think we saw it on the site, and I think that's the way it should be done.
No, it's a great buffer. No one would want to destroy it.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be surprised, Mr. Bush.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I just know how much it would cost to put back.
Okay. All right. Well, I make a motion to approve the application of Mike Bushnell for a special permit under section 713, 715, and 11.6 of the zoning bylaw to demolish the existing 1,062 square foot dwelling and construct a 4,944 square foot dwelling, with the sort of footnote that Ray said, you know, that number is slightly higher, counting the unfinished attic space. That is over 50% larger than the existing gross floor area on a non-conforming lot at 135 Williams Road, making the findings under 11.6 as to the benefit, and with the standard conditions, as well as the condition that some roof runoff be recharged into dry wells, and that the landscape buffer on the side abutting Miss Yemi's property be preserved in accordance with the tree bylaw application that was submitted by the applicant. I think that's all we need to move.
I second that motion. Thank you, Ravi.
Just for the record, Ray, can you say the number again? That's not 4,900 square feet, it's 50 something.
5,095.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. All right.
I second
any
it.
further Okay, thanks, Mr. Kindermans. Any further discussion, Mr. Kindermans?
Aye.
Mr. Faia?
Aye.
Mr. Smith? Aye. Thank you very much. I hope it is a successful project.
Thank you for your time. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for your consideration of taking, it's very, very helpful when applicants, take good thought and consideration of concerns. So I think that was, I think I felt at least that you would respond, made a good effort to respond to some of the thoughts. So that's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next matter, I think, is administrative business, the minutes of November 18th. Which were circulated. I don't know if there'd been any, did you get any comments back, Heather, from anyone?
I did from Ray, and it was related to that ceiling height. I had it in the minutes listed as 6'7" and it should be 6'8".
Right.
And I probably need to change the square footage in the description as well to the 5,295 number.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Can I get a motion?
I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes as amended by Ray of the November 11th, 2021 meeting.
November
18th.
18th.
Second.
That's right. All those in favor, Ms. Akers-Moore,
Aye.
Mr. Kindermans,
Aye.
Mr. Smith. Aye. Thank you very much. Okay, anything else before us tonight?
Nope.
Nothing else, but wishing you all happy holidays.
Thank you all.
We'll be seeing
Yeah, have
you.
fun in Hawaii, Jim.
Yeah.
That's right. I will not make the next meeting, sorry to say.
Will the snow be gone by the time you arrive there?
I don't. Yeah.
Well, one of the weeks is on the Big Island where, the 13,000-foot volcanoes, I think, have some snow every once in a while. But yeah, I'm not going to be up there. I'm going to be on the beach.
Sounds very nice.
Yeah, good for you.
Okay.
All right, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care,
Okay,
all. Happy
take care.
holidays.
All right.
Happy
Hope you have a
holidays.
great